stuff with you. At the top, you can read these. You don't really have to fill in anything. But today, so Tuesday, we talked a little bit about parallel lines and a little bit about transversal, but now we're combining those. And if you look at one of the examples down here, your two lines are going to be parallel, and then the transversal is going to cut them. And if that happens, if your lines are parallel, then we can add some stuff to the angle pairs that we already know, the corresponding angles, the alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and consecutive interior angles. So if you look, it says, and this is if the lines are parallel, each pair of corresponding angles is congruent. That means they equal, right? And so if I have corresponding angles, if one of them is 70 degrees, what's the other one? 70 degrees, right? That's simple. If they're alternate interior, they're also congruent. So if they're alternate interior, they're equal. If they are alternate exterior, they are congruent. So far, 3 of the angle pairs, if they're an angle pair, they are congruent. Now, if I have consecutive interior, that says that they are supplementary. What does that supplementary word mean again?
Huh?
What does supplementary mean again? It means they add up to 180 degrees. So if one of them was 100, the other one would be 80, right? That's all 4 of my angle pairs that I talked about Tuesday. If I have 3 of them, that means they're equal. If they're consecutive interior, that means they add 180. And then we've already used vertical angles and linear pairs. If I have vertical angles, they're always congruent, right? Vertical means they're opposite of each other. So like vertical would be 2 and 4. When a linear pair is supplementary, that means 180, and that would be like 1 and 2, 1 and 4, 2 and 3. Now, really important. Whenever I'm talking about the 4 angle pairs from Tuesday, we talked about this on Tuesday, one has to come from this group, and the other one has to come from this group, right? If I'm talking about vertical angles and linear pairs, they come from the same group. Alright, so basically what we're doing now is figuring out, you still see that good on there? Figuring out all these 8 angles up here when I'm only given one of them. The very first thing that is the easiest thing to do is I'm going to go on my figure here, and I'm going to make my congruent marks for an angles, for all the angles that are congruent. So, if I know these are parallel, which these 2 arrows mean they're parallel, right? So if I start with angle 1, I know the corresponding angle to angle 1 is going to be congruent, right? Remember that little arc inside the angle means that it's congruent. So what is angle 1 corresponding to? 1's in the top left, and so 5's in the top left. So 5 will be corresponding. Corresponding means they're congruent, right? So angle 1 and 5 are congruent. Well, now also, if I look at, first of all, 1 can't be alternate interior because it's on the outside, right? But it can be alternate exterior and whatever its alternate exterior is also congruent. So what is angle 1 alternate exterior with? So angle 1 and 5 are corresponding. Angle 1 and angle 7 would be alternate exterior, right? So 1 and 7 also have to equal. And then if I look at this, 7 and 3 are both in the bottom right. Those would be corresponding. Corresponding still equal, so 7 equals 3. So I started with one angle. Now I know that one angle actually equals 3 other ones as well, right?
So then why is it, so wouldn't it be 4 because is it 7 and 2? No, I mean,
Now, before I actually move into the numbers, we'll go ahead and talk about the other ones. If I have angle 2, it's going to have to be congruent to angle 6, right? Because they're in the same place. And so since this is a different angle measure, this one gets 2 arcs. 6 will also get 2 arcs. Two is also congruent with angle 8, right? Because they're alternate exterior. So both of those will get 2. This is starting to get a little jumbled, but if you're following along, you should hopefully understand. And then 8 and 4 have to be the same. And so now I know every angle in there. And guys, the way I have this set up, it's going to be the same way every time you have 2 parallel lines and 1 transversal cutting through them. And what that means, out of all 8 of these angles, I actually have 2 different numbers. It tells me angle 1 is 65. All the other angles that equal angle 1 have to be 65 degrees as well. Then, if I go back up and look at this top part, if they're not equal, what are they going to do? Add up to 180, right? So if I want to figure out what the other angle measure is, angle 1 and 2 are not equal, so they're going to add up to 180. We'll subtract 165 from that to get what would go with 165 to make 180, and that would be 115 degrees, which means these other angles are 115. And so if I actually go down through here and put the values in, it says angle 2, I had 115 in there. Angle 3 was 65 degrees. Angle 4 is 115 degrees. Angle 5 is 65 degrees. Angle 6 is 115 degrees. Angle 7 was 65 degrees, and angle 8 is 115. For right now, for today, I'm not going to worry about you giving me a reason. So you can just forget
for
about that.
example, could 1, 5, 7, and 3 all have the same example, or the same reasoning?
Yeah. So you could say that like 1 and 3 are both 65 because technically they're vertical angles. Well, 1 and 3 have to be the same as 5 and 7 because of the parallel lines. So. Now, that's going to look like that every single time. I'm going to go down, we're going to do example 2 together, and then you're going to do the next example. But if just in these figures, whenever we get to the rest of them, you will have to make your marks. If you can understand, well, let's look back up at this first. My congruent angles go in a diagonal, right? The top left, the bottom right, top left, and bottom right are equal. Same on both, and then same way for the other ones, right? Does everybody see that pattern? So, if you know that, it tells me angle 6 is 142 degrees. I know what is opposite of that is also going to be 142 degrees. And then those same two angles on the bottom, which would be 3 and 8 in this case, is 142 degrees. And then how am I going to find the other angle measure? If they're not equal, they add up and give you 180, right? So you do 180 minus what? 180 minus 142, which gives you 38, which means this angle is 38, this angle is 38, this angle is 38, and this angle is 38. Now what this example did to try and trick you is your numbers are not listed the same way your angles are listed at the top, right? So it's not going to be, like at the top, angle 1 is equal to angle 3. Well, it's still equal to angle 3. But angle 3 is not in the same place as angle 3 was on the top, right? So you always have to look and see how it's numbered and then go back and make sure you write them correctly. So angle 1 was 142. Angle 2 was 38. Make sure you write your degree symbol. Angle 3 is 142 degrees. Angle 4, 38 degrees. Angle 5, 38 degrees. Angle 7 is 38 degrees. And angle 8 is 142 degrees. Don't worry about the reason right now. Right now, I want you to do example 3 on your own. The only thing different with example 3 is it adds another line, but it follows the same pattern, right? Now, instead of 4 angles that are going to be the same, I'm going to have 6 angles that are.
So you would still do the top right.
Yep.
I mean, top left, bottom right.
Yep. Now you just have an extra line. So take a couple minutes to do that on your own, then we'll come back to that.